morning. Don't they say that you should dress for the job you want? So I hope you guys can get used to seeing me this way because this is how you're going to see me. Let's start off. Everybody just stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. All right. 10 jumping jacks. Go. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but it was good. We got everybody to stand up so you're ready to listen, so you can go ahead and sit back down. Okay, little icebreaker. All right. So I was thinking this morning, I was actually at my personal training this morning, and I was talking to my trainer, and I was like, wow, I have to speak in front of a bunch of adults. I am not used to this. I am so used to just speaking in front of kids, but I really welcome the opportunity to grow and to do this, and I really enjoy speaking. So, Rachel, I'm glad that you asked the question about the best community day, because my first thought was field day at school. So I did go to public school, and we had a field day every year, and you'd compete in different things, and you'd get like prizes. And so I just thought how fitting it is that even at that young of an age, how God was just developing me into this person to teach this. And so just a little background on me. If you don't know me, I went to school to be a health and physical educator. So this is what I do, have an education in. It's not what I do to make a living. I'm here, and I'm grateful to be here. Last year was my first year here. And now our whole family is involved in the community, so I'm grateful that I got the little piece of it in the afternoons. But I'm here to really just talk about why this is so important. I think this is something that some people highly value, and some people maybe don't see the value in it, and maybe we can find a balance there. So a couple of points here. It's no secret that appropriate physical activity is necessary to a student's overall well-being. Okay? The benefits of physical education in community is far-reaching, including both increased student physical health and better academic performance. Physical education is more than just running around a track or kicking a ball. Okay? It teaches children key life skills alongside improving their health and well-being. So again, well-being, okay, it's come up a couple times. So a fact, you probably know that obesity continues to rocket across the globe. You can see it. You can see it in a lot of our health issues that we're experiencing, and it's getting younger and younger. And most people are taking on sedentary lifestyles. So my goal in my family, but also in this PE program, is to promote a positive mindset about exercise from an early age that will help to keep them healthy as they get older. Is that your goal? Is that your goal for you, your family, your children? Something to think about. I can't tell you what the importance level is to you. It's something you need to seriously consider, especially with what we know. So the handout that I have, or that is in your folder, if you just want to take a look at that, I'm not going to read through it. You have it, so you can read through it. I'm going to touch on a few things here, but the value of education, so you can read through, look at all those different points. As I was doing some research on this, I found quite a few things to why physical education is of value. We don't, at CHE, make it a requirement, but it's highly encouraged. And everybody in the Scouts, Navigators, and Captains will have an opportunity to sign up to be part of the PE program that's in the afternoon, and that happens after lunch. So as you can see there, you can read through there. Do any of these bullet points surprise anybody? Is there anything that you see there that maybe you didn't think to see on that list? And you can let me know if you see anything. I know that I can point out, for me personally, and what I see in my own children, is the stress reduction. Our family makes it a point to go roller skating. We love it, but I can tell you that the excitement and anticipation for the day, just to go do that, and then how we have such a calm evening after we do that. It's amazing, and that's just our time then to get into movies and stuff. So for us, the stress reduction is great. I roller skate because I'm timing myself to see, okay, 60 minutes of roller skating burns this many calories, because that's just me. They go for the socialization and to win the races and play the games and stuff. So if you have any questions further on that, we can discuss it more. I have limited time today, but I do have a visual here that active kids learn better. So I think that's the bonus benefit of all of this, is it does help improve academics. So scientifically, it's proven. So you can see that here. You can see after 20 minutes of sitting quietly how lit up the brain is, a little bit. But after 20 minutes of just walking, how the brain lights up and is just ready to learn. Okay, so I know in our preschool class, we're going to be doing some brain gym stuff, which helps to connect the left and the right brain, and we'll be starting with that before we even get into anything else. So let me talk a little bit more about some of these specific aspects of how PE is valuable. Physical and mental health. As a PE teacher, I am here to ensure that the curriculum consists of age-appropriate activities that support growing minds and bodies. I will adapt lessons to make them appropriate for their groups and ensure that they do not overwhelm children with skills or requirements that may be too advanced. At the same time, I know when students are ready to be further challenged. So there's that balance there in that class. I can tell that there are some times that it's not necessarily a physical thing, it's a mental thing. And sometimes there's that, we can challenge you a little bit more to push forward. So PE improves motor skills and increases muscle strength and bone density, which in turn makes students more likely to engage in healthy activity outside of school. Okay, so for 30 or 40 minutes that they're here, that they'll be participating, how many days should we be active physically? Does anybody want to take a guess what they recommend? Every day, yes, but minimum 5. Minimum 5. So if you're not physically active at least 5 times a week, then we might need to just reevaluate where we're at. So I get them for one day, 24 classes, or I think we're at 20 classes. So we want to promote that they want to do these things outside of here. It educates children on the positive benefits of exercise and allows them to understand how good it can make them feel. So if any of you have ever exercised, even just a hike, gone out in nature, how you feel afterwards, capture that in your brain, because just something like that can just be so beneficial. All right, so that's the physical and mental health. Let's talk a little bit about social. Yes, physical education is social. I know there were a lot of times in my physical education classes that maybe it wasn't always a positive experience socially, and I do understand that. Even being an athlete, dodgeball was not my favorite. I did not like getting hit with a ball. It just was not my thing. And I didn't like throwing a ball at somebody else either. But some kids really love that. So I get that there's going to be different social parts of this. But what we need to focus on is that it's going to demonstrate the value of cooperation while being a part of a team, which can help them have a sense of identity. When PE teachers model pro-social behaviors, children gain skills that pave the way for healthy interactions and relationships throughout life. This teaches them essential communication and social skills. It helps them to become team players, to work alongside a diverse range of teammates, and be able to support others. And I have to say that last year, I noticed that is a huge part. There was so many kids who were just helping the other ones, and they were playing as a team and working together, and when there maybe was a little bit of a lack here, somebody jumped in to help it. It was beautiful to watch. So that's a lot of where we are benefiting socially. So let's talk about self-esteem and character development. Playing team sports in a structured setting reinforces leadership and good sportsmanship. Playing various roles on a team and gaining new skills encourage students to respect themselves and their peers. It also teaches them to be understanding to others and support them through their difficulties, which I kind of mentioned here a little bit ago. Gestures like a handshake or a pat on the back or a high five from a teammate helps build confidence, camaraderie. And earning praise from coaches or other players also helps to improve self-esteem. I know personally, I'm a praise person. You say, "Atta girl," and I'm like, "Woo, I just want to try harder." So I think there are a lot of kids out there like that. So this then leads to increase in confidence, trusting in their abilities, progressing in their skills. It's beautiful. It's important for children to understand that self-esteem should not rely on winning or losing. I don't focus on that. A lot of the kids want to. I don't discourage them wanting to focus on that, but I don't as their teacher. If you win the game, great. Everybody's a winner in some way. Everybody could do better. So while I do keep score, we don't focus on who wins and loses. Children who receive constructive criticism well are shown to be better at making changes to improve themselves, whether it be at school, in work, or in sport. Okay, and finally, better academic performance. So here we are, full circle. The many benefits of PE carry over from playing field or gymnasium into the classroom, leading to better academic performance. Research reveals that children who take part in physical education are better able to regulate their behavior and stay focused in class. Often, sport gives children the opportunity to take their minds off their academic studies. It offers the chance for them to relax, release pent-up emotions, and to spend time having fun with their friends. So, and with those emotions come a lot of different emotions. So I see a lot come out in the gym. And it's something, again, the grace of knowing that every child's different, every child's holding on to something, and exercise is a really great way for that to come out. And so I allow the children to feel how they feel. And if we, as a teacher here, I open it to the parents. If you're noticing something and you want to speak about it, let's make this an enjoyable experience for your kids. So the last thing that I'm going to go over, and then I will take any questions, is what our curriculum will include. So we're going to be stretching and warming up. We're going to learn the importance of what that is. We're going to have a different challenge every class. So the kids are going to understand age-appropriate goals for different things such as curl-ups, push-ups, jump ropes, all that types of stuff. And then I will be communicating further for those who sign up for PE what you can practice at home. Okay, so if we're wanting that minimum 5, then this is one of the minimum things that you can do every week is to do a challenge with them. Okay, so you will be updated on that and where they should be age appropriate. We're going to be doing different movement games or activities such as relay races or jump ropes. We have many, but that's just 2 I put down. During the winter months when we can't be outside, we're going to focus on 2 sports. The first one is volleyball, and then I'm going to let the class decide if they want to do soccer or basketball. Okay, because I think it's important that they have that ability to decide. And then we're going to be doing team games. So we'll have opportunity to do the team games and build onto that. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Could you just explain where you imagine gym to be happening? Because I know that last year it was in a small gym.
Sure.
So will still be there?
Yeah. So every opportunity that we have to be outside when the weather's nice, we are going to be outside. So obviously that's not going to be the whole year. So when we are inside, we will be in the gym. Now we have formulated a plan with as many kids as we have. I hope that every single one will sign up, from the scouts to the captains, which puts it a very big class. So we have a plan in place that we will be splitting that up and offering phys ed class and recess alternating. So they will have the opportunity then to be able to have some free play as well. So we'll go over that more, and if you want to talk about it more after, we can. But so the class sizes are going to remain small so that we can keep it safe and more age appropriate.
And outside, would it be like parking lot, the grass area?
So I prefer the grass area more than the parking lot, but we will be using both. So And the grass area is kind of up there, and it's on a little hill, so I have to be mindful, because last year when we had our big end of the year game, a lot of the balls were going down over the side, and so it's just something we have to manage through. But any other questions? Yeah, sounds great. All right, thank you very much.
All right, so just thank you, Morgan. That was awesome. It's such a blessing to have an actual PE teacher in our community. Woohoo! All right, so we're just a couple minutes behind, but that's okay, because all these sessions are really important. So at this time, I'd like to invite Miss Michelle Kelly to come on up and talk to us for a few minutes about why we do memory work. Woohoo! All right, Michelle.
All right, don't worry, I talk really fast, so you all get to lunch on time. All right, so memory work. I'm just going to give my experience as a tutor. It was funny because when Rachel gave me the topic of memory work, I was thinking like, okay, value of memory work, because I will say for me, memory work was my favorite part of tutoring. I love the memory work. I love the interaction, the songs with the students, and I love watching how it just clicked in them so effortlessly and freely. So I was like, all right, memory work, at least it's not Latin, so I'm good to talk about this. So memory work, what is it and why is it important? So who here has used memory work before? I know everybody, right? Okay, all right, a few of you that haven't. So I'm just gonna kind of explain the value and the benefits of why we do memory work. All right, so I'm just gonna start off by defining it. If you guys each have a handout on your table, it just kind of gives you, yeah, I didn't make my own handout, sorry. It just gives you, I'm using Rachel's, the overview of the first quarter of what our memory work will look like in kind of a snapshot. And okay. And as you can just see, memory work is just basically a sentence or a list of facts that are broken down by a subject or category. So we'll do, like, memory work can incorporate important dates, historical figures, math facts, which are super important, scientific information. Basically, memory work is a grouping of facts that is important for your students or anyone to really know the basics of, to then grow into further understanding with what they are learning, right? So these are the main facts that you need to know to start out with, all right? So you may be thinking, like, why do our students need to know these facts, right? Like, why are these facts so important for them to know before they start diving deeper into the subject? Well, learning the fundamentals is the first step to mastering anything. Okay, so if you want to learn something new and understand something new, the first thing that you're going to have to do is learn the basics of what you are going into, right? Learn the basics so that you can have a deep understanding and then a building upon that. I think Becky said pegs, you know, like you want to put those foundational pegs in to be able to build upon. And that's what our memory work is. We're giving you the basic facts about what you need to know so then you can learn more and then grow more with that. So for example, if you were learning about animal cells, it would be important to know the different parts of an animal cell. Or if you were studying Christopher Columbus, it would be important to know where he's from, the names of his ships, and important dates. Fellow tutors, you may know where I'm going to go with this one. All right. So this may all make sense to you, right? Like, yes, we understand that facts are important in learning things, correct? But in this day and age, when I first started this and I was looking at all of this memory work that we had to figure out, I was like, yeah, I get facts are important, but why don't we just Google it, right? Like right here, you know, we have like our phones, we have our iPads, like we need to know these facts. So why are we spending all of this time making up different songs, learning different things, right? Well, I hope you were thinking that because I'm gonna explain why memory work is actually extremely valuable. Not just the facts that you are learning, but the actual process of the memory work. Are you gonna sing? Yeah. Later though, wait for it. All right, so one of the number one things that is important as you do memory work with your students is brain training, okay? And I have some personal experience with this. I worked in long-term care, and I did brain rehab with a lot of my residents there. And the number one thing that we were always told was to have them learn new things, develop new skills. And doing memory work with them, puzzles, all of that, was huge because if you don't consistently work your brain, it will deteriorate, right? Just like any other muscle. Like you practice throwing a pitch right. You practice, making the correct shot so your body has that muscle memory. Same as like practicing handwriting, right? You want to practice it over and over because your body will be able to then, go back to it and like automatic muscle memory. Well, it's the same thing when you do memory work because you're training your brain to be able to store these facts and then retrieve them quickly. So practice with memory work. No matter what you are memorizing, you are training your brain to absorb these facts, put those pegs in, and then when you need them, you're going to retrieve them. Okay? So it's just, as I said, brain training is crucial, and this is a skill that your students are going to need throughout their whole entire life. They're always going to have to remember things, right? Even though we have all this great technology where we can just look up someone's phone number or, look up this, memorization is still a key component. So just remember as you're going through it, it's not so much about the facts, it's that you're equipping them to learn how to memorize things. The second thing is that memory work capitalizes on the child's super ability to memorize things and enjoy it, right? So we all know our younger students, they love to repeat things, like repetition, repetition, repetition. They want to sing the same songs over and over again. They want you to read them the same bedtime story until they practically have it memorized, right? They like repetition, same things over and over, and they have fun with it. Repetition for them isn't something that's monotonous or exhausting. They love hearing things over and over. That's how they learn how to talk, right? They listen to you saying things. They hear them over and over, and that is then what teaches them how to speak as well. So it's the same thing with memory work. They get excited when they are able to repeat things, and the way that we do it here at CHC is that we put the memory work into fun chants. We use big movements, hand motions, songs, right? So we make it fun for them to learn these facts, right? Because sometimes when you look at the facts, you're like, whoa, these are really big facts. This is way over my student's head, okay? And I'll get into that in just a little bit, but they are just having fun memorizing these things, and they are just storing them right into those file folders into their brains for when they're actually going to need to use these facts. So, I do want to say also key here, we do the facts seven times, which I feel is also important because that's kind of like the sweet spot for your brain to memorize, right? Because you do it 7 times. We do it 7 times here when we do our memory work, and then at home when you do it as well, it's beneficial. Like every time that you go over it, sing the song 7 times in a row, and then go on to the next one, do that one 7 times in a row, because that really just makes it stick. All right, so for example, I stated previously that if you were studying Columbus, your memory work or your memory fact would look something like this. In 1492, Columbus took the first of 4 trips to the Caribbean on 3 Spanish ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. So this was actually the very first memory work sentence that I learned. This will be my 3rd year doing classical education, and this is the very first one that I learned. So this is why I'm going to relate back to this one. So when we first learned this, and I was looking over the memory work, and again, like brand new parent coming into this, I'm thinking, wow, this is a lot. And then I was like, oh, there's a song that goes to it. Now, if you can all sing along with me, if you would like. But yes, you can do the hand motions too. So the song that went with it goes, In 1492, Columbus took the first of 4 trips to the Caribbean on 3 Spanish ships. It's the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa, Maria. And I think we had like shakers and like little boats that we did in class, right? So we did this 7 times and it stuck, okay? And I know that it stuck because my daughter at the time was 4 years old, okay? And she would sing it all the time. That first year was the first one that she learned. She learned many, many, many more, but she would always sing this one, okay? So this is going to lead me to my final topic, which I'm most excited about why memory work is valuable, and that is because memorization leads to inspiration, okay? So as your kids are memorizing all of these songs and all these facts, you're like, okay, this is great, you know, like they know this, but do they really understand it? And honestly, a lot of the material, depending on what age they are, they're probably really not going to understand it, but they're going to memorize it. They're going to have it back there, as I said, to be able to pull, okay? So when they hear, what I mean by inspiration is that when that moment finally happens, that they hear something that they have memorized previously, and they're like, oh, I know that. That was one of my favorite things as a tutor when maybe we learned something, I don't know, a month or so ago with timeline, and then we were talking about it in history, and they're like, are they the same Aztecs that did this? You know, so you could like literally see that proverbial light bulb just going off in their mind, and they were making these valuable connections between what they had been thinking about, and now they're learning actual facts about it, and they're able to grow and build on top of that. And I just think that is just one of the most beautiful things when you see it all finally come together, right? So then this is when their critical thinking forms, right? So this is when they start being like, oh, so what is that? Because their confidence has been raised because they realize that they know more about this subject than what they actually think that they do. And I'm just going to leave you with this example. I'm going to go back to Columbus again. So fast forward like a year or so later, after my daughter had learned the Columbus song, and it was Columbus Day the next year, and I was like, oh, we're going to do like a fun, you know, a little Columbus Day, like your curriculum today to learn, and she, you know, of course, if you know Claire, she's like, oh, like, why do we have to do something, you know, something else? And I was like, no, you know, like, it'll be really fun, and she was like, I don't know who this person is, like, I don't want to do this, and I was like, and then I was like, yes, actually, you do know who this person is. And she's like, no, I don't, never heard of him, you know, and I was like, and she was like, Columbus took the first of 4 trips to the Caribbean on 3 Spanish ships. And I was like, yes. And that light bulb went off. And then she was asking questions, you know, well, why did he name his ships this? And I was like, I don't know, let me Google it. Like Google does work. Like it does have a use, right? So anyway, that, like, I will just say memory work, sometimes it can seem a little bit monotonous. It can seem like, my kids aren't understanding this. Why am I putting so much time into it? But I promise you, just stick with it. It will click, and it'll make you so happy when you see that click. So I hope I inspired you a little bit to do your memory work at home. And
Thank you, Michelle. That was awesome. All right, so I'm going to invite Ms. Kelly Welsh up to talk to us about why we studied Latin.
Now, I'm fully aware that the minute you heard the word Latin, internally you went, ugh. So, why do we study Latin? Might start with why am I the one standing up and talking to you about it? I've had a pretty interesting journey with world languages. Before having my 2 wonderful little ones, I taught Spanish, high school Spanish in public schools for more years than you would guess. And had the opportunity to be a department chair and then to teach graduate school to teachers who wanted to learn how to teach a foreign language, which we now call world languages because that's inclusive instead of saying foreign over there, weird. World languages sounds like an adventure that you want to learn. So I've had this journey of teaching high schoolers a world language, then the journey of kind of public school mentality going down a not classical path and coming full circle to learning classically with my little ones, to really seeing the value of why do we study Latin in classical education? What does it do for us? So, first of all, the heart of classical education actually is the study of Greek and Latin and the cultures that went with them and the wonderful people who kind of formed the history of where we are now. And so if we exclude that entirely, we actually cut off part of the definition of classical education. That's the first reason. Probably not the one you're going to go home with in your pocket and pull out with your kids. Okay, so the second reason, the second reason is that Latin is your secret decoder ring to so many things. Scientific language. Oh, you can pull out all your Latin, right? To any Romance-based languages. You pull out your Latin. How you organize learning Latin is going to lead, and we're going to talk about this more in a minute, is going to lead to your learning of any other language that you'd like to. Many words, maybe you didn't know this, many words in English that are more than 2 syllables have Latin attachments, either prefixes or suffixes or entire roots that come straight from Latin. So if you want your kids to be able to read advanced texts, not texts on the phone, actual text that has words in it that are like more than 1 or 2 syllables, Latin is going to help them decode those words. Instead of having to memorize what a whole bunch of different individual words mean, you're learning the building blocks. Oh, what does that sound like? It sounds exactly like what Becky said when she was standing up here. We're learning the building blocks in the grammar stage to then be able to make connections, to then be able to like have an opinion, support that opinion, and then master something. So I really, as she had her visual up here of the 3 different levels of learning, and then mastery in the center, other than God being the center of that entirely, Latin pulls from all of those places and really does tie it all together. Is your groan getting less a little bit? Your internal groan, is it kind of relieving a little bit? So here is what we want to think about when we think about we're teaching our kids Latin. When your kids learned English, how did they learn it? Yeah, and they learned it by experiencing, didn't they? They learned it by being around it. They heard it, then they started to repeat what you said, and then they began to kind of adventure out, right? And they were like, what's a good example? I goed. Well, that doesn't make any sense, but everything else has an ED on the end of it when I did it, right? But goed doesn't work. And so they kind of like learn by assimilation all of these rules about English, and then we have to go back and teach them the rules about English, and then they're like, oh, wait, it's not I goed, it's I went. Why is that? Well, it's irregular. Okay. So the process of them learning English takes a really long time, doesn't it? So when we learn our second language, and especially with it being Latin in this regard, we're actually putting structure to what they already have learned in English. And I can't tell you, I mean, I can tell you, I know my brain has all this public school experience and knowledge. I grew up, went to public school, taught public school for so long, had so many kids come through, and high schoolers that literally couldn't tell you what a verb was, and that's not a joke. You know, or like didn't understand, tried to conjugate nouns. So what I realized was these were people who had spoken English their entire lives but had zero idea even how to pull apart a sentence to say like, well, that's the subject and that's the verb. And certainly grace for that. But what we're doing for our kids when we teach them Latin is that we're giving them the pegs. You keep hearing about pegs. We're saying, look, this is a subject. This is a verb. Verbs get conjugated. This whole year, do you know what we're talking about? Conjugating verbs. It's so awesome. Yeah, so what they're gonna learn is this little chart that is going to like blow your mind and blow their minds. And they're gonna be like, I don't know what any of this is. But you're showing them the pegs to hang language on. That's what we're doing with Latin. We're showing them, why does a direct object have this function? What does an indirect object do in a sentence? And being able to explain it to them with the structure of a new language, you are going to see more light bulbs than you know. I mean, I had high schoolers going, wait a minute. So you mean like the direct object directly receives the action of the verb? And you're like, that's right. Now give me some English examples, and I was teaching Spanish at that point. But the idea that like they actually can decode what they're supposed to know, that is why we're teaching them Latin, because we're teaching them the rules behind what they already know in their own language, and then attaching it to something that's brand new. Now, this is one of the subjects where literally you're doing memory work, because you don't have anything back there to store it on, right? So you're gonna be like, you and your kids are gonna be walking next to each other, storing brand new information. Don't be intimidated. It's amazing. It's gonna be super fun. It might even be a little frustrating, but when do we grow, people? We grow when we're a little bit challenged, when we're a little bit frustrated. And so I just would encourage you to embrace this Latin adventure, because you're giving them their secret decoder ring. They're gonna be able to read these words that they never thought they'd be able to read, that are huge. You are giving them the structure on which to base all of language, their English language. You want them to be good readers and writers in English. This is their support system. Next, if you ever want them to learn another language, this is where the roots begin to take hold. And I can tell you this from experience, because I taught in a high school where there was a huge Jewish population. And the kids that I had that came into Spanish for the very first time, who had had Hebrew school as little ones, and didn't mean that they were reading text, but they were doing exactly what we're going to be doing in Latin. They were chanting, they were learning things systematically through the Hebrew language. And do you know that those kids, Hebrew is, how many of us know, it's not a Romance language. It has really no attachment to Spanish that way. It uses pictures and it reads the other way, and it's completely different. But the kids that had, as little ones, stored some of how to learn a language, they were like, Spanish, I got this. They just kept going and never looked back. The kids in the class who hadn't had that prior experience were like, I'm sorry, what? You're gonna conjugate? What does that mean? And so what we are doing is laying this beautiful foundation for wherever they would like to go. We call it primed and ready brain networks for the future. I was going to show you the verb chart, but I'm going to be the only one excited about it, so we'll save it for day one. It's okay. So I'm going to read this quote to you. This is from a website called Lead with Languages. The many cognitive benefits of learning languages are undeniable. So this first part is for your kids. Ready? People who speak more than one language have improved memory, improved problem-solving and critical thinking skills, they have enhanced concentration, they have an ability to multitask, and they have better listening skills. Who doesn't want that for their kids? They can switch between competing tasks and monitor changes in their environment more easily than monolinguals. And they display signs of greater creativity and greater flexibility, because they have to go. How many of us know that when you're working with two languages, you're going back and forth between parts of your brain? You're like, wait, this means this, oh, connected to that. You're actually creating brand new neural pathways in your brain to connect these things, which is so exciting. Now this one's for us, ready? If that weren't enough, as we age, which none of us are aging, of course, we're staying just brilliantly young, being bilingual or multilingual also helps to stave off mental aging and any kind of cognitive decline. So see, when you're learning alongside your kids, you're actually staving off your mental aging and any kind of cognitive decline. Who's in? Come on, who's in? Your groan is lessening. Okay. So, like we said before, this is truly memory work. In order to learn Latin, your kids are going to have to listen. They are going to have to mimic. They are going to have to make sounds with their mouths that they're not used to making, and they are going to have to pair it with something that is in their mind. They can't get around that in any way, shape, or form. And so we are actually laying foundation for that memory work process, which is beautiful. They're not going to be able to lay back on what they learned last year about Columbus, because this year we're talking about history again. Latin is going to be all new for them. And this is the last one. We learn Latin because it's so fun!
goodness. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Morgan. It was wonderful to hear what you had to say to all of us. So at this time, I'm going to actually turn it over to Cindy Huber, who's going to introduce us to someone special.
I call him special all the time. Yep. No, I want to introduce you to my husband, Brian. Come up, please. This is my loving, supportive, and sometimes funny husband, Brian Huber. Brian has over 25 years of safety and security experience. He spent 22 and a half years in the military, and 10 of those he spent traveling the world. So he is going to lead our safety talk today. But first I wanted to tell you about a couple changes. The church doors are going to be locked while we are in community. So they're going to be locked around 9:10 in the morning until classes are finished about 3:30 in the afternoon. And each week we will have a roster for each classroom to sign your kids in and out of so that we know who is present at all times. This is going to be important, like when we do our fire safety drills, or if anything comes up, we just know who is here. And I'm going to let Brian talk about the rest of the safety stuff, and I'm going to go work the video over there.
Before I do that,
Yeah.
I have another reason for you. So I ran a trail race on Saturday, and I ran with two people that are veterinarians. They have their own practice up in Lewisburg, and we got in a conversation about homeschooling and all this stuff, and when I told them my kids were learning Latin, they were both like over the moon about it because that aspect, they said we struggled with that for years because of all the scientific stuff and names, and it was funny because they were just like very ecstatic that Latin is still being taught out there. So another reason for your hip pocket. Yes. Random things you learn in the woods. So but yes, as Cindy said, my name's Brian. We have been in various conversations about all this stuff, and me, with all the experiences that I have, this is the one of the first things that pops in my head, is safety and security of everybody in here. So how many of you guys have been through fire drills? Pretty common. How many of you guys have discussed shelter in place? Handful of people. How many of you have been through active shooter training? There's a handful of people. So, and the thing with all those is there's kind of a dedicated response to all those. And unfortunately, in the world we live in, that latter, the active shooter training, is something we definitely need to embrace. We don't have to like it, we have to embrace it because it is out there. And it transcends these walls. So it's not just something for use here. This is something as you guys go about your everyday lives, whether you're in a shopping mall or at a grocery store or anything like that. So the biggest thing to keep in mind under every circumstance is try to remain as calm as you can. Move this over here so I'm not looking sideways. Your demeanor is going to dictate everybody else's demeanor. So if you freak out and go crazy, everybody's going to follow your lead and freak out and go crazy. Even if you're freaking out inside, you got to try to fake it till you make it and remain as calm as you can. Once the first responders get here, you're permission to break down. Go do what you got to do at that point. That's the biggest thing is they're going to feed off of your lead in any circumstance or scenario. If you don't have any basic first aid training, I would definitely recommend doing that. Basic first aid course, CPR, AED, any of that kind of stuff. Those courses are out there and they're very helpful to have as well. And I'm not here to scare anybody. I'm here to discuss plans of action. Stuff to think about to think about before things happen or as they happen. Oh wait, hey, yeah, we talked about this, that, or the other thing. So with fire drills, were these given out to everybody? Okay. So in your packet, there's kind of a pretty little map, and then on the back it talks about a little bit of the actions and stuff. I'm not going to go too far into the weeds on this. I believe there's a fire drill scheduled for the first or second week of class. But something is, if you guys aren't familiar with the building, a big thing is familiarizing yourself where the exits are, where the rally points are, if there were any sort of emergency. There is a point back here, so if something were to happen at the front of the building, obviously you want to try to go out the back of the building and assemble over here. A big thing with fire drills or anything like that is don't just leave. Sometimes people will be like, well, my car's right there. I can just hop and get out of the situation. Fire department shows up. They're going to, if they say there's 38 people, they need to know there's 38 people. If they say we only have 36 here, they're coming in the building. And if they come in here and realize nobody's here, they're not going to be very happy with it. And you're also putting their lives in danger. So just don't leave that situation. The other rally point is to the front. If you go out the front of the building, to the front left of the parking lot. So your actions are just going to dictate, whatever exit is clear, whatever exit you can get out of, and get out there and keep everybody, calm and together. And the other big thing with it is be aware of the first responders. They're coming up here with gangbusters. Their idea is, hey, this building's on fire. We're here to put that out. They're not paying attention to any little kids or anybody else walking around. When I flew on airplanes, we rallied 500 feet off the nose of the airplane. That was standard procedure. But they told us, they're like, if you see the fire department's on the other side of that, we need to find a different place to rally because they're coming straight for that problem. So just don't be a victim with that. So shelter in place would be used if there's any sort of natural disaster, any emergency, thunderstorms, tornado warnings, hurricane watches, warnings, the weather turns sour here like it does. Those rooms are, we discussed this, rooms 260 and 270. So when you guys do a walk around, I'll let Cindy point those out to you. So shelter in place would just be, if there's some sort of emergency that, hey, you got to stay inside. Those rooms have interior walls. This has exterior walls. We lived in Kansas and Illinois, so this was something we discussed with our kids at an early age because we had tornado warnings and stuff like that. And so you want to be kind of the interior of buildings if there's something. Cindy had the pleasure of, we were getting ready to move, and she got to go sit in the bathrooms at a Barnes & Noble because that was the shelter-in-place room, and a tornado touched down about a half-mile north of where they were. So she got to sit in there and just kind of hang out, and they took books off the shelves and read, So just find creative things to do. There are computers and whatnot, or not computers, TVs in there, so you can sing songs and practice Latin, whatever may keep everybody entertained. I scored some cool points there. And then the third topic, the active shooter training. It's not intruder awareness. Intruder awareness would be that, hey, there's somebody walking around that shouldn't be here. They may or may not be a threat. They may or may not be armed. An active shooter is somebody that walks in here with a gun that is intent on killing, hurting, taking out as many people as they can. It's not pretty. We got to call it what it is, though, because that's exactly what they're trying to do. And like I said, this training goes beyond these walls. This is stuff to kind of utilize and think about when you guys are out on your daily lives. So we're going to watch a quick short. It's a 6-minute video. It kind of talks about it, and then a couple other topics I'll go over after. So that's where, like, if you, are you tutor, what's your parent that's there? Okay, so that's gonna be a conversation you guys might want to have of, hey, if there is a fire drill, are you guys just to evacuate and rely on the tutors or the teachers to get all the kids out, or that's gonna have to be something that's discussed? But, yeah. Yeah. Not technical. spot of being the person talking because I know I'm between you guys and lunch, but it's better than being the person that's right after lunch. I'm sorry, whoever has that spot. That's the harder spot to be in.
Do you have any suggestions on how to discuss situations with small children? So for example, active shooter, like fire drills, that's kind of like, oh, there's a fire. It's not someone coming to harm.
Right.
With younger kids, like my daughter, who's very, very empathetic, got hung up on 9/11
Right.
2 years ago and still talks about it,
Yeah.
which is, one of the perks of homeschooling, is you don't have to practice like gym seats indoors and,
Right.
keep the news off because I don't want. How, do you have any suggestions on how to discuss that?
Well, and that's one of the things I was going to say here toward the end is this is honestly no different than talking to your kids about the dangers of drugs and alcohol and driving and texting or any of that kind of stuff. You got to do it age appropriately though, because you don't want them scared. You don't want to scare them. And I know Cindy had brought this up to me about when 9/11 was discussed. It's upsetting. We lived it. It was upsetting to us as adults, and we can wrap our head around things a little bit more. I'll have to try to find some resources for you. I pulled some of this information off of the FEMA website. Yeah, it was just off of FEMA.gov, and it talked about it. But there's got to be some resources out there for discussing it with a kind of a younger age and how to help them wrap their heads around it.
Because they do training with kindergartners regarding, they talk about it like it's like a wolf, and they did like these drills, which I got secondhand with Grayson, so take it with a grain of salt, but, so they're, I'm sure.
How they and they're teaching this in public schools. That's
Right, that's what he was in
but
public
it's
school for kindergarten.
but it's got to be. They're teaching a lot of things in public schools. We don't want to discuss. It's just it has to be age appropriate so they understand it, and that could be, yeah.
So there's gotta be something.
Yeah. Did you get it? There we go. Yeah. So there's just stand by there just in case there. I don't know if there's ads. This video is straight off of YouTube. It is appropriate. I watched it multiple times. But it's.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority.
Stop that guy! Stop that guy! Hey!
Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911.
Yes, we're 1002 Washington Street. Help us!
If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
It's a heavy topic, and unfortunately, like I said, it's the world we live in now, and we have to, we don't have to like it, we have to accept it and protect ourselves. So a couple things with that is I found this on the FEMA website, but preparing now. The biggest thing they say is if you see something, say something. You guys have flown recently, plastered all over the airport. See something, say something. If something looks out of the ordinary, tell somebody about it. You know, if something looks off, or somebody, you know, you see somebody casing the place, you know, that's the type of stuff you should be aware of that in your neighborhoods as well. You know, looking out for one another with that. Many places have training, so if you guys are going to be, you know, for instance, you're going to be here, you know, on Tuesdays or whatever, but if you're going to be at another co-op, I don't know why you would do that. But anyway, if you're going to be somewhere else, you know, or if you go to church here or somewhere else and you're participating with things, know what their plan of action is as well. You know, just familiarize yourself with that kind of stuff. And like I said, the big thing out of this is situational awareness. You know, kind of when you visit a building, know your exits. When you walk in, it takes 3 seconds to scan a room. Be like, oh, that's the door I came in. There's light over there, so I can obviously go out that way. So just kind of looking around, knowing your exits, places to hide. When you're in your classrooms and everything, when we were down talking about this the other day, we talked about, you know, you barricading the doors and places to hide, and you know, just kind of pointing that stuff, being aware of those types of things. And it's kind of, you know, if you walk out of the mall at night, you know, and you're by yourself and you've got shopping bags, and you're walking out into the middle of a half-deserted parking lot, hopefully you're not walking out like this on your phone. You know, your head's up, you're looking around and being aware of your surroundings. And that's what a lot of this boils down to, is being aware of your surroundings. So if this incident were to occur, remember, run, hide, and fight in that order. Now, with the hide thing, and this is something, I don't know if a lot of people know this, you can actually text 911. So if you're in a situation where you can't call, or calling could be detrimental, you can text to it and you know, kind of get that information out there. And when it boils down to fight, this person has made their choice to hurt, injure, kill, whatever. Make your choice to survive. Take them out with whatever means necessary. In fact, I joked with Cindy, I said, in fact, I'd feel bad for somebody who came in here, because I see a whole lot of mama bears in here. And it ain't gonna end well for anybody in that situation. So, so after, like, if that type of event does occur, if you are going outside, keep your hands empty. If, you know, I know some of you guys may concealed carry, stuff like that. If you've engaged the shooter and you fired off some shots, holster your weapon. Like, you need to know, law enforcement needs to know who the good guy was and who the bad guy was. So make sure you holster that, keep your hands out, you know, empty, so they can see them. And like they said, you know, law enforcement's coming here to eliminate the shooter. They're not coming here to offer first aid. They're coming here to eliminate the shooter. That's their first priority. And then you just need to follow their instructions. So if they tell you to run over here, you know, follow their instructions and run over there and you know, do what they have to say. If they tell you to get on the ground, get on the ground. You know, so just follow their instructions to a T. So a lot of this boils down to, you know, we tell people to be safe. And this is kind of a segue to what you had brought up. I would encourage you to have these conversations with your kids as appropriate, age appropriate, just so they're aware and you know, they know, they kind of understand these things. You know, their friends may be out there talking and stuff, and it generates a lot of questions. But like I said, it's no different than teaching about drugs, alcohol, anything of that nature. And this is more than just telling our kids, hey, be safe. It's equipping them with the how and the what and the why. You know, if we drop our kids off at youth group at the church they attend youth group by us. And so, I mean, it's a completely different situation. We're not there. So I want my kids to be aware, because you may be taking them to a friend's house, or they go to a party, or they go to a skating rink, or anything like that. Like, their friends may not be aware, you know, so we need to do our best to equip them for this. So, and I did find a Bible verse on the one thing that I was talking, but 2 Timothy 1:7, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and of sound mind. So don't want you guys to walk around in fear of, hey, if this happens or whatever. Just know that God's given us the brains and the ability to do things that we need to do to protect ourselves and protect others around us. So that's all I got. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and otherwise, enjoy lunch. Oh, yeah.